QuakeCon! I'm Jess Finster, Senior Community Lead for all Bethesda Game Studios games, and I'm excited to be here today to celebrate the 10th anniversary of a game that's very close to me, Skyrim. One of my first projects at Bethesda was working in QA on Skyrim, so we go way back. Joining me today are three very important guests who also go way back with Skyrim. Three members of the original development team. We have Ashley Chang, Managing Director, Art Director Matt Carafano, and Senior Designer Will Shen. Ashley, you actually recorded a message for the Skyrim fans. Let's check that out.
As Skyrim turns 10, it is both humbling and deeply gratifying to see how passionate our players still remain a decade later. Great things have happened because of you, and great things are coming in the future thanks to your continued support. This year, on November 11th, we're excited to celebrate Skyrim's 10th anniversary with a special event, together with you, the community. We plan to honor what you've done with the game and celebrate how the game has impacted you in the decades since its release. With this goal in mind, today we're inviting you to take part. Showcase your mods, send us your art, don your cosplay, and tell us your stories.
We're about to go pick up Skyrim.
Whether it's a heartfelt memory, a funny moment, or anything in between, we want to hear from you.
Add dragons to everything. Mecha dragons. Don't ever stop adding dragons to your game.
Share with us how Skyrim has inspired you, your friends, and your family, even your pets. In 2011, The Elder Scrolls V showcased the expansive world we created. 10 years later, let's celebrate together everything you've brought to Skyrim and all the ways you continue to inspire us at Bethesda Game Studios every single day.
We thought it would be fun to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of Skyrim playing through the beginning of the game and having you guys share stories from development. But before we do that, we have some exciting news. This November, we are going all out to celebrate Skyrim's birthday and give back to the community. On November 11th, we'll be live streaming a concert featuring the original score performed by the London Symphony Orchestra. That's not all we're going to do to celebrate. We want you to join as part of that celebration by submitting your creations, your fan art, your cosplay, anything that you have, cool videos, you name it, just send it into Skyrim10.com. We're also excited to announce the Skyrim Anniversary Edition, which will launch on November 11th. This new version contains Skyrim Special Edition plus 10 years worth of content and tons of creations and items. If you already have Skyrim Special Edition, you can upgrade to the Anniversary Edition for the additional content. Launching at the same time, we'll have a free next-gen upgrade for Skyrim. You don't need to own the Anniversary Edition to experience Skyrim on next-gen consoles. Check out our article on Skyrim10.com to learn more about the Anniversary Edition. Ashley, there's something else that we were adding to Skyrim that you've been excited about that's free for all players. What is that?
Yeah, you know what? I think 10 years is a long time to wait, but I think it's worth it. We're putting a fishing mechanic in the game. It's something that, you know, I've always wanted to do in Skyrim. You're running around the world, exploring the wilderness. You don't have to dive in the water and click blindly anymore, right? You can now grab a fishing pole, do some fishing quests. It's a great addition to the game. It'll be free to everyone. And it really adds to, again, the immersion of the world of just running around Skyrim. You can now go and fish.
Sounds very relaxing after a day spent killing dragons.
Yes.
We have even more to talk about at the end of the panel, but for now, let's dive into the game. Driving for us today is Chris Kreitz, QA engineer. Take it away, Chris. Could you imagine that the community would be playing Skyrim 10 years later this long? What does that feel like as somebody that's been working on the game for so long?
Honestly, it's pretty amazing. We have an amazing mod community who supports our games, and we've built that over the years, but 10 years, I mean, that's insane. And we love that. We love that about our fans, that they continue to add content. It just makes the game so much better and kind of give it its own life and lets it sort of last forever. You can keep playing because there's so much to do.
And this is the iconic carriage ride that has now become, I think, a meme for the ages. How did the team settle on what the opening was going to be for Skyrim?
I think we always knew you were going to be carted off to your execution. I think at one point you were walking. I don't know when the cart ride came online. Do you remember that?
What's wrong? I don't remember the cart ride started. I remember it was like new tech we were adding, and it was very difficult to get the cart to work. So it's only in this specific scene, which is kind of interesting. But we definitely knew that you were going to be a prisoner because it's an Elder Scrolls game. So you're always this mysterious prisoner with your own past that you can kind of make up yourself, and that kind of brings you into the world. I remember us kind of talking a little bit too about how, in a way, it sort of harkens back to like Half-Life in a way. Like you have this sort of smooth intro into the game where you get some of the story and some of the setting, but you don't quite know what's going on yet before you get out into the game. And that was pretty cool.
It makes it feel believable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're adding in all these snippets when they're talking about the world, like the horse thief and referencing the divines and Sovngarde, and it's all there that just sort of drown you in it. Like, hey, you're in here now. The actor who plays Ralof there on the cart, the first person who speaks to you, he does an incredible job. Like, I threw in a lot of lines where, he grew up in this area, and now the people that have protected him are now carrying him off to be beheaded. And so there's this nice mixture of like bitterness, but also sadness when he's carrying the lines. He did a great job.
Imperial walls and towers used to make me feel so safe.
What is your favorite types of characters to play when you're playing?
Well, I don't think we knew it was a thing at the time, but I definitely played Stealth Archer a lot. I played Magic. I tried everything a lot, but I'd always come back to Stealth Archer. I had no idea that was going to be like the best way to play or whatever that like everyone on the internet
that's
thinks.
The community defaults back to Sneaky Archer. No matter what race you are, what character you want to play, it's always Sneaky Archer. How about you, Will?
Two-handed sword, I think, full Berserker mode, just run straight forward. That was definitely fun, and then once you're done with that run through, switch to mage, and do all the mage stuff.
Ashley?
It depends on what my mood is. If I'm doing sword and board, I'll take Redguard. Stealthy Archer is really popular. I do like to play Argonian because I'm lazy, so I can swim everywhere and I don't have to breathe. If I'm playing the main quest, Dark Elf is good because you're resistant to fire, so it makes the game a little easier if you're just trying to get through it.
Ulfric Stormcloak.
General Tullius.
Some here in Helgen call you a hero.
I mean, I think we grabbed the actor did Sultai from Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So we added him in there as a tough military voice. The funny thing is he's staring down poor Ulfric Stormcloak, who's gagged. So it's not really the meeting of the two heads of the Civil War that it probably should have been.
What in oblivion is that?
Sentries. What do you see?
It's in the clouds.
So this is the first introduction of Alduin. What were the main inspirations for Alduin's design?
Adam Adamowicz, our concept artist, did do the designs for the dragons. And we looked at an old movie, Dragon Slayer, because they're like wyvern dragons, and it was really cool. It's like ILM did the effects on that. So that was a good inspiration. And then Reign of Fire was a movie that had come out recently. We used that for like the aggressiveness for how they would stomp across the ground. That movie was a really, really cool reference. So those two films, I think, were good reference. And then with Alduin specifically, we had to make him, a lot more intimidating. And so he was sort of like, he was like lava rock that came to life. Like he's older and ancient and just a different league from the regular dragons. That's kind of how we set him apart.
He definitely has that ominous look to him compared to some of the other ones. I mean, they're all scary when you run into them, but he definitely has like that almost devil horn look to his head. How did you develop the dragon language? What goes into creating a whole new language?
Oh wow, that was almost entirely Emil.
So yeah, Emil did the language itself and what all the words mean, and then the idea for the shapes was our concept artist Adam again. He was thinking about how would a dragon write and what would that be like. So the actual characters are imagining dragon claws like turning and scraping rock. So those are all basically dragon scratches to make the characters for the language. And then Emil took all that and just ran with it and came up with the shouts and the language and what all the words meant. So it is like a partially full language that we use for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and all the gameplay-wise, all the shouts had 3 components. So every time you see the writing, their entire language is built on combining 3 words together. So they're making all their writings and language and stuff out of combinations of 3 symbols each time. So there's a specific rhythm to it. So the big moment with, are you going to choose the Empire or the Stormcloaks here? When we originally wrote this, I actually had like full dialogue come up and you can ask them questions and things, but like there's a dragon flying around and you would just die because we were locking you in. So that's when we decided, okay, they're just going to stand off and then go to do 2 different entrances, and where you physically go is the choice.
Who do you usually pick?
Oh, I go with Ralof all the time because I love his voice actor. But Hadvar's good too.
Keep moving. Come here.
I always think it's funny, like this is the best part of character gen, because the Empire is basically like, yeah, we were just about to decapitate you, but don't worry about that. That was a mistake. Just come with us. Trust me. We need your help. Like,
yeah, we had to have like Hadvar doing heroic things to make you realize the Empire's not so bad. That's why he's rescuing the kid. He's like leading you to save you from the dragon, even though he was just about to kill you. He's like, oh,
we're friends now.
It's fine. We got bigger things to worry about now.
See if one of these chests has some armor for you.
And this is a community question from Get Kleenex. When writing Skyrim, did you have an idea for the conflicts already? Or were they always going to be what they were? Or did you come up with things on the fly, like as the development process went?
Oh, I think we knew about that super early.
Yeah, the Civil War was sort of the backdrop for the whole game. We knew that. And we knew that you as the player, you weren't going to necessarily end the Civil War, but you could like help shift things a little, because we wanted that conflict as part of the story, but it wasn't the main part of the story. The main part is that you're Dragonborn and you have to defeat Alduin. So yeah, that setting, that was part of the setting and always there. That was one of the early ideas. That and being Dragonborn, I think, were the 2 main things that started the story.
It's fun too, writing something with so much established fiction. So a lot of the cities and settlements are things that were referenced previously, either in earlier games or in books of other games. So we would have like 1 sentence that we would then have to expound upon for the entire city.
The Dragonborn part 2 was important in this game because with Oblivion, you were just sort of an accidental hero. You were in a jail cell and you weren't anybody special. And then all the way back to Morrowind, you were like the reincarnation of a god. So we went from you were a very special character to kind of a nobody who becomes a hero, to then kind of coming back to this game and saying, yeah, there's something actually special about you again and why you're the one who's gonna save the world ultimately. So it's kind of fun, I guess, going through all the games and doing something different.
Great job, Chris, but if he were a normal player, he would be stripping this area. Like, he would be stealing everything right now. It's my understanding that people, because that's what I do, I steal everything and I sell it all when I get out, so I have enough money. You know, we try to say yes to the player. So can I open this? Yes. Can I take all of this stuff? Yes.
Yeah, we tried to make all the clutter have purpose, too. Right. It wasn't just like, oh, here's things that you don't interact with, you know. All the items had value or were useful in some way. And I think that's really important. Like, you can root through everybody's stuff and steal it and do something with it, or at least sell it.
Fellows screamed for weeks. See if you can get it open with some picks.
Lock picks.
Everything we can get.
Yeah, so this is us introducing you to how the lockpicking minigame works.
Nothing feels better than getting that right, like on the first try.
Grab what you can and let's.
What are some of your favorite moments from developing the game?
It's hard to say. I think a lot of it really is, we all are working on various parts and you don't see the game until things start coming together at the end. And it wasn't until you started seeing like the combat come together with spells, with the world, with all the game systems. There's a moment when you're making the game where it's like, oh, it's how all that stuff came together and is actually fun and interesting. It's like a switch goes off. You're like, oh, okay, now everyone can see what the game is and react to it and make it better.
Yeah, and you get to a point where there's so many pieces, and then you get to see how people put the pieces together. Like, our level designers are great. Like, I remember we're playtesting one time and you're in a cave, and then all of a sudden there's a giant tower right in the middle of it, and it tells a whole story right there, right? What happened to this big stonework that's in the bottom of this cave now?
Yeah, absolutely. The way, like, the way we make games, in that it's such a huge world and we have a big team that has to like fill out all these spaces, you never kind of know what everybody's going to do because there's so many areas to make. And the level designers can go build something and like mix and match all different sets and caves and architecture and just make really, really cool stuff that you don't see for a while, you know, when you're working on the game. And it's like, oh, I didn't know we had this whole area over here that does this. It's, in a way, like as a developer, you're exploring the game the way a player would because it's so huge.
That kind of leads into my next question of what is your favorite example of like an Easter egg or environmental storytelling that you've found in the game while playing?
One of our clutter artists had taken a cheese wheel, which had a wedge out of it, and then a bunch of little cream puffs. And you would have to look at it from above, but it was the cheese wheel and the little cream puff stacked side, so it looked like Pac-Man, but only if you looked at it from a certain angle.
I feel like a lot of people on the team probably have that idea that nobody's going to find something that they added like a little touch to, but like the community is all about it and they find like everything. And that's probably like those aha moments that did happen in the game. I have a community question from the Josh Utley, sorry if I butchered your name. What have been some of the things that players have done that you said, that made you say, I didn't know you could do that?
It's something funny, and it became kind of a joke, is that you could take the bucket and end up putting it on an NPC's head, and then they wouldn't be able to see you because that's how our detection works. They actually are looking through their eyes, looking for the player, and then you could steal everything in their house. And I made that bucket, and I had no idea that that's where that was going to end up, but it was one of our early clutter assets, you know, things we put around the world, and I wanted to make sure the physics worked right on it so we could pile stuff into it. But I had no idea people would just like turn it over and like place it on people's heads to rob the world blind. That was hilarious.
I'm a master criminal.
The exit to character gen, yes. So we spent a lot of time on this because now you're free, you're open to the world. And we wanted to present it that way, like here's this path that kind of leads off into the world, and there's a nice big reveal and a really, you know, epic view, and it gives the player the sense that like, hey, welcome to the world, and you can go anywhere, you can go play anywhere you want.
It almost seems to entice you with the paths there, but then you also can see Bleak Falls in the background, so you're probably like encouraged almost to want to go there first, even though the path is leading you somewhere else. Yeah, we actually had to write this segment a few different times because originally we had Hadvar or Ralof would, you know, offer to come with you because you just escaped this harrowing experience together. But when we did that, everyone felt obligated to have to go to the next spot, and then it wasn't the big open adventure the way we normally would have it. So we ended up having him say, okay, I'm going to go off on my own. You can follow me if you want, so that it's a little bit more at your discretion where you want to go. The game's not trying to tell you to go anywhere. Yeah, that line was definitely the nod of like, hey, you can do whatever you want now, but if you want me, I'm heading to this town. Whenever you want to do the main quest, I'll be there. Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the scene when you walk out, you know, something that's new for us with Skyrim is the verticality of the world. You know, you're able to see these mountains. See that ruin out there? Like real mountains this time that you have to actually climb up, and the weather changes. It's that joke of, you know, Todd saying, if you see that mountain, you can climb it. And that, when I first got out of character, that's the first thing I wanted to do, was just to go up that mountain and see what was up there. And we do all this work for these NPCs that run around the world and stuff. Like, he has a lot of stuff to stay everywhere. Oh, yeah. And I bet you 99% of people never see him, right? One day, I just for fun, I followed him and I saw all these things that had happened. And I went, oh my God, all this effort.
Oh yeah, he has a whole family there. same with Ralof, right? Like Ralof and Hadvar from the same village. Right. They have family that's there. When they escape, they go. They sit down, tell them what happened. Yeah, exactly. They introduce you. Like this is my uncle.
There's a whole story. They'll give you gifts. They'll be like, hey, here's a gift. I'm like, you just gave me something.
Like you saved my nephew's life. You take what I got. Yeah.
And now I'm gonna steal you. I'm gonna rob you blind now and steal the rest of your stuff.
Well, it's mine is yours.
Yeah, exactly.
There's dragons, so we have different priorities now.
What was the main inspiration for the look and feel of Skyrim versus other Tamriel provinces?
Well, I think a lot of it is thinking about like what kind of world the Nords live in. And we sort of settled on this term, we internally called it epic reality. And what that really means is it's very picturesque. and scenic kind of all the time. So we wanted really dramatic views, and the world kind of dictates that. And then we figure out then how the people live in this world and how they would look. So how the Nords dress, what they wear, what their history is. We try to layer in a lot of the culture around you of the Nords, from the ancient ruins we're heading up to now, all the way to like how they live now in the cities. And a lot of that, like the Nordic ruins, some of the inspiration there was like, oddly enough, like Egyptian ruins.
Oh, cool.
And we were talking to Adam about like, how do we come up with what's an ancient Nordic, you know, ruin? What would it be? And we wanted it to be like big stone, like buildings that were, you know, would stand the test of time, like the pyramids or something like that, but not iconic in that way. And he ultimately came up with this idea of these sort of rib shapes. So it was sort of like giant dragon ribs.
Oh, that's cool.
That would line the ridge of mountains. So we sort of imagined them as like dead dragon temples all across the world. That's sort of where the shapes came from, with, you know, a lot of cool like iconography inside, much like you'd see in something in Egypt. So I don't know, it was like a weird roundabout way to get there, but we wanted to sort of invent something that was inspired by other things.
Do you have a favorite region?
I think it just changes as I play. I don't know why that is. I don't know, it depends. I think actually the classic kind of pine forest mountains that we're in now, I think to me is the most iconic Skyrim, and coming up to the ruins, stuff like this. But it's nice to, you know, get out into the tundra and have, you know, big open views, or get up into where it's, you know, snowing and icy. I don't know, all of it's got its own kind of feel.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the Reach because I was doing a lot of writing for the city of Markarth, and that was nice because it was so different.
Cool.
You had all the Dwemer ruins, and they, you know, built a lot of stuff out of the dungeon kit and just jammed it into the settlement kit.
The Dwemer stuff too was pretty cool because we have this sort of, I don't know if there's a map, but we know the migration of the dwarves and where they came from. You know, so we have them all in Morrowind and then coming through the mountains. So that's how we kind of put the dwarven stuff more heavily into the Reach, because that's where they would have traveled. I don't know that anyone would know that or care, but it was pretty cool in building the world. Like, oh, let's put a lot more dwarven stuff on, you know, the western side of Skyrim.
How about you, Ashley? Do you have a favorite region?
So usually my go-to is I'll be in Whiterun, I'll take a carriage over to Riften, and I'll do the walk Riften, basically towards the throat of the world, right? So basically you're walking through like this fall foliage, it's beautiful. There's a lot of fun stuff to do on the way. Then you hit the mountain and you just start going up all the steps to the throat of the world to do that part of the main quest. And so I've always really enjoyed that walk. During development, everyone play tests the game, and usually what I'll do is we'll go, hey, Will, you're gonna play the Thieves Guild this time. Matt, you're gonna play the Mages Guild. I remember playing a lot of Thieves Guild, so I was out in Riften a lot.
Yeah, I think that area, that Fall Forest region, we were trying to make it sort of the prettiest area in the game, if that makes sense, and it's the most like relaxing, whereas everything else is a lot harsher. So that was kind of the contrast region, to be like, it's nice over here, and then the cool part was you go to the city and you find out actually it's kind of a terrible city, and this is where the Thieves Guild's living. They're all, you know, on the lower level of the city. Yeah,
Green Lodge, horrible.
We did that on purpose. We wanted it to the contrast of like, hey, that city is actually kind of bad, but it's in the prettiest location.
I kind of like that even more. Do you have a favorite dungeon? There's so many of them to explore that have like kind of different features in them.
I don't know, there's tons of awesome dungeons in the game, but I actually think like Blackreach is really cool because it's so expansive and it's a surprise. You know, it wasn't something we showed, and it was a cool moment where the player's like, okay, I've seen the map, I kind of get what this game is, and then like you go underground and stumble into it, and you're like, wait, this place is huge, and there, you know, there's all these little like hidden parts to it. I think that's really cool when you do something that's like a surprise that's that big.
And this is where I believe you first see Draugr if you're going down the main path. What was the inspiration behind them?
Well, we wanted to have, you know, undead, and we'd had Draugr before. I think we put them in Blood Moon, the expansion for Morrowind, so that's going way back. And it's a different take. Like, They're not skeletons, they're not this, they're more of like mummified warriors. But we didn't want them to be slow moving. We wanted them to have, you know, be action-oriented combat.
Terrifying.
Yeah, and they're sort of the guardians of these ancient temples. They're buried there.
I remember during Skyrim going back to Blood Moon and referencing a lot of that design and art from that. Just to figure out, like, what did we do? How do we make that?
Yeah, early on, it was kind of our only big example of something that we'd done before, unless you go back to the really, really old games. And other than there, you just know, all right, well, it's a snowy region. It's you know, there's not as much you can pull from that. You can pull more of the lore, but not the setting as much.
Right, right.
So this room holds the distinction of being the room with the most developer deaths. Because we were
true.
We were
it feels like a death trap.
That is true.
We were tuning the balance specifically when we hit this room,
Yes.
and we kept changing the number of Draugr here, the placement of the oil trap. I think, yeah, we ran through, would just die 10, 12 times over, take a ton of notes, and do it all over again.
The thing I like about this dungeon too is if you just do this dungeon out of character gen, you got enough of everything. You got armor, you got weapons, you have spells, you'll have leveled up I think you level up like 2 or 3 times in this dungeon. I died a lot in this encounter too, actually. I hated this boss.
The Dragon Priest?
Yes. I would actually intentionally, I would wait to hit the word wall. I would do everything. I would basically get all set up,
That's
do
how I
everything.
played as well.
Everything, and then
Pick everything up, yeah, and then do the word wall, and then go, okay, here we go. Don't die.
I do keep away, and I would try to like run around and like just hit him from time to time if I'm too low, and then like run away and go and then like come back later.
Yeah.
I think we have enough time to maybe get through this one guy, and as was tend to be the case with Skyrim, we got lost with time, so we'll have to come back again and maybe do another follow-up panel where we go to Whiterun.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, he's killing pretty well. Way to go, Chris. Thank you to Ashley, Matt, and Will for chatting with us today, and Chris for helping us through the game journey. We have more Skyrim to come this weekend. Join us tomorrow for a Skyrim fun run with none other than Gus Johnson. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you later this weekend.